A low mechanical voice echoed somewhere, distant and warped. Warning, warning. Thesara stirred. Her limbs were stiff, her mind thick with static. Everything ached, especially her right side. Her head throbbed like a slow percussion, each beat of pain dragging her further from unconsciousness. Proximity alert. A dim red light pulsed in time with the voice. Her optics fluttered open, blurry and sluggish. Lines of text and flickering symbols raced across a narrow display to her right that felt foreign. A small screen was in front of her, with stripes and shapes zooming by. Collision course. Proximity alert. Collision. Had there been a collision? What had happened after leaving Cybertron? Warning. Warning. Thrusters inoperative. Proximity alert. Collision course. Collision course? Thesara rubbed her optics and held her throbbing head for a moment, trying to piece it all together. The voice sounded closer. She looked around her to find a cramped, closet-like area with a harness attached to her shoulders. An escape pod. An escape pod? From where? She thought. Escape pod? From the medical transport. That's right, she was on the final medical transport to have left Cybertron. Then what? Collision imminent. Brace for impact, the voice said. Brace for impact? Still groggy, Thesara looked up and saw that the screen in front of her was actually a viewport where she could see out into space. The shapes and stripes had been stars and the moon she was about to hit. No time to think, no time to react, only instinct. She pulled the harness tighter across her frame and curled slightly into herself. A moment of stillness, then impact. A thunderous crash. Metal shrieked. The world jolted sideways. Everything turned white, then black again, and she fell back into the dark. Hello, can you hear me? The voice was unfamiliar, but not threatening. It was calm and gentle. Can you open your optics? Thesara tried, but they felt impossibly heavy. Her head throbbed dully, worse than before. Unless, had that been a dream? The crash, the stars, the pod? It's all right, the voice said again, softer now. I'll get you out. Just try to relax. The words settled over her like a thermal field. Reassured, her system stopped resisting. She let herself drift, and this time, when darkness came, it was warm. A voice, warm and steady, stirred her from the fog. Thesara, can you hear me? She tried to respond, but her optics still felt heavy. The voice reached her again, closer this time. That's it. You'll be all right. Can you look at me? She forced her optics open, blinking through the blur. Light stung, and the sky moved downward as the ground climbed up. A wave of vertigo swept over her. She shut her optics quickly, groaning. You were in a pretty bad wreck back there, and you're injured. We'll get you help. Don't worry, he said. Closing her optics did not remove the vertigo, as she recalled the motion of the stars shrinking by the window and the moon growing closer. Do you remember what happened? Her thoughts felt slow, like her memory was scattered. As she searched for it, she noticed the air smelled foreign. She reached inward, focusing. She was waiting for him. Then, after goodbye, they separated. Was he okay? Had his ship also been struck? Struck. They were struck. They were struck by the nearby explosion of a ship. The exodus was chaotic, and as the battle neared, so did the ships that were being targeted. The Decepticons had hit one ship nearby the medical transport and had lost control and collided with the fuel chamber of the transport. The warning had sounded, and only moments later they had felt the explosion. Thesara was still on the rear of the transport, having just seen her brother. As the ship exploded, she was somehow fortunate enough to have been in a small section that was spared from the complete destruction or incineration. Instead, she was adrift and injured far from the battle as the section drifted into space. She regained consciousness and awareness just long enough to enter one of the escape pods that had been in the section she was tumbling along with. As she entered it, it must have registered that she was injured and placed her into stasis, or perhaps she just lost consciousness. I have to go back, she thought as deep concern filled her spark for the patients she had been transporting. It was a civilian medical transport ship. They were unarmed and posed no threat to the Decepticons. Why would the Decepticons risk collateral damage to a medical transport ship? Thesara felt her sadness and concern turn to rage. The rage helped rouse her. They killed my patients. she whispered, bitterness sharpening the words. Who did? Said the warm voice, his hand pressing gently on her shoulder. The Decepticons, replied Thesara bitterly. There was a pause. Decepticons? He repeated, uncertain. That stopped her cold. Her optics cracked open again, narrowing now. Who didn't know who the Decepticons were? What Cybertronian needed clarification? She turned her head, forcing her aching frame upright by a few inches. The figure beside her was tall, refined in design, walking with a measured pace beside a hovering field stretcher, towing her down a narrow path. He had an unknown glowing green insignia on his chest and a matching glowing green blade on his back. She felt the increasing pressure of his hand on her shoulder as she tried to sit up a bit to look at him. Was this a dream? She had never seen or known a planet that looked like this. The life was organic. She had heard scientists hypothesize the possibility of such life as being reasonable in the vastness of the universe, but this had to be some hallucination. She had likely died in the explosion. This might be the well of all sparks. What are the odds to have survived an explosion that destroyed an entire ship anyway? As she looked into the face of a Cybertronian, she was at a loss for what to say. Then the words spilled out of her. Who are you? She immediately thought that was rather rude. This person may have either saved her in the living or was retrieving her, recently dead, to help her transition into the next life. He looked at her fully. His eyes were calm and steady. His frame was marked with symbols she didn't recognize. I am Zephyron, Knight of the Temple. Her head throbbed. She let out a small gasp and collapsed back down, clutching her helm. Easy, Zephyron said, gentler now. You should lie still. We're almost there. A healer awaits, Zephyron said. Her optics shut tight, trying to force the throbbing to subside. She responded, What sort of physician? She is not a physician, Thesara. She is a natural healer. Rest now and recover, Zephyron said. What did that mean, natural healer? Was this some ancient ritualistic culture? What planet had she crash-landed on? The process of trying to think through what was going on, whether real or not, was too much for her injured neural circuits. The questions faded into static. And once more, Thesara powered down. Whom have you brought me this time, Zephyron? A voice came from among the vines in the garden. It was measured, melodic, and weathered by centuries. A physician from Cybertron, Zephyron replied. Her escape pod crash-landed on Tombstone Glacier. Valtoris looked up from the cluster of glowing flora in her hands. That moon does seem fond of collecting wreckage, she said dryly, although I have never known it to spare a survivor. Zephyron stepped forward, optics heavy with thought. Yes, the moon has a unique magnetic signature that tends to capture smaller vessels into its gravity well. With harsh terrain and sub-zero conditions, most perish if not recovered quickly, Zephyron responded. Valtoris rose, brushing energon dust from her palms. And this one? She's injured deeply, but alive. The archive listed her as a physician, young yet notably experienced, Zephyron said. Young and experienced. Interesting. Another war on Cybertron, then, evaluating Thesara's injuries. Yes, indeed. The latest peak in hubris in our people's history, Zephyron said sadly. Valtoris walked slowly toward the garden, collecting plants, then back to the Cybertronian resting beneath the shade of the Icona canopy. Well, she will need time here in the garden. If she can put her mind at ease and tranquil her spark, the Icona will respond to her, Valtoris said. There was a moment before Zephyron responded. I think this may be the one, Valtoris. Valtoris stilled. She turned to him, studying his expression. Zephyron was not prone to dramatics. He spoke with measure and with care, but there was also something in his voice. Was it a quiet hope? Valtoris looked at the young Cybertronian on her garden platform. She walked over to her and placed her hand over Thesaura's upper shoulder. After several moments, she looked back to Zephyron with curiosity. Well, let me know if you require anything, Valtoris, Zephyron said. Actually, Valtoris said thoughtfully, you may be able to guide her. In a few days' time, I think, she will be strong enough. Zephyron nodded. He brought his right fist to his chest in the silent bow of the knights, while Taurus returned the gesture with a simple nod, then turned back to her work, placing small clusters of luminous plants gently near Thesara's resting form.